Hello everyone, I'm Jeff Clark. I'm an engineer and an Oregon licensed naturopathic physician. I'm here to talk to you today about near-infrared photo biomodulation, an extremely useful biohack for conditions that are stuck in the brain and the body. By stuck, I mean has implications of mitochondrial dysfunction. So what is near-infrared? If you look at this chart, the first thing that you should look at is at the bottom where all the color is. These are the wavelengths that we experience in the electromagnetic spectrum as light, visible light to us. On the left we have the blues and purples fading into ultraviolet. And on the right, we have red, which fades then into the near infrared. So you can see that what we actually can see is just this very little sliver between ultraviolet and this bigger section that is called infrared. And then within the area of infrared, there is another subsection, which is the near infrared region, 750, the first wavelength we can't really see, down to 2500 or up to 2500 nanometers. The wavelengths are getting bigger and the energy intensity is getting less. So specific wavelengths of near-infrared photons stimulate mitochondrial electron transport chain at the cytochrome C. This is what's called a chromophore. This picture over here has also got a little bit of graphing. These peaks represent two places where light wavelengths are actually effective at hitting the mitochondria and stimulating cytochrome C. On the left, we see low-level red light, a smaller spike, and on the right, we see the bigger spike, which is in the near-infrared region. You'll see a lot of devices that have both of these mixed together because they both have an effect. But I can just tell you right off that there's a problem with the red light if you are trying to reach deeper tissues. Works great on the skin and the tissues that are right at the surface, but its targets include more than just the mitochondria and cytochrome C, and you produce a significant amount of heating that makes it really impossible to get a significant or meaningful therapeutic dose of photons deep into the tissues. I'm going to go ahead and invoke through the magic of technology Dr. Michael Hamblin, who by far has the most literature and the most cognizant or cogent things to say about photobiomodulation. He spent his entire research career, really working on this at Harvard Medical School with Mass General and the VA back there. So I'm going to not play the entire clip. It's about 24 minutes. It's available on my website under photobiomodulation. Well worth the investment of the entire time. I am going to show you a few excerpts from his talk.
So hello everybody, my name's Mike Hamblin. For 25 years I was at the Wellman Center for Photomedicine in Harvard Medical School, Mass General Hospital. I recently retired and now I'm a visiting professor at the University of Johannesburg. And for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to give you some background introduction to photobiomodulation for brain disorders. So ever since that in the 1960s, this idea of low-level laser therapy, low-intensity laser therapy, low-level this, that, and the other, and various kinds of photostimulation, all sorts of strange names came up. But recently, the field decided to try and unify it by calling it photobiomodulation. A, because nobody quite knew what low meant, and also you're not overstimulating if you've got something like pain, you want to inhibit it. So photobiomodulation is the new consensus term. Now the mechanisms, there's quite a few different mechanisms. The main mechanism revolves around the mitochondria. So the cytochrome C oxidase, which is unit 4 in the mitochondrial respiratory chain, is accepted as a chromophore for red and near-infrared light. And the idea is that you get more oxygen consumption, more ATP, the mitochondrial membrane potential goes up. Other things happen, but one important thing is that the mitochondrial metabolism switches from glycolysis back towards oxidative phosphorylation, which is important because it has a few effects on the whole metabolism. You get a lot of signaling happens based on this mitochondrial activity. You get nitric oxide released, you get ATP and cyclic AMP, you got a brief burst of reactive oxygen species. These activate transcription factors, so June Phos is AP1, I kappa B allows NF kappa B to go to the nucleus, and these transcription factors can trigger the expression of over 100 different genes, which is a long-lasting effect. So these proteins that are triggered by these transcription factors will last for hours, days, and even weeks. So a single exposure to light can have long-lasting effects. As I said, this switch of glycolysis to oxidative phosphorylation is important for two reasons. One is that stem cells are activated. Stem cells in their hypoxic niche carry out glycolysis, but when the mitochondria are activated, they need oxygen, so they have to get out of their niche when they can undergo proliferation and differentiation programs. The second effect of this glycolysis to OXPHOS switch is anti-inflammatory. So macrophages have an M1 phenotype and a pro-inflammatory carry out glycolysis. When OXPHOS is activated, they switch to the M2 anti-inflammatory phenotype. And if these happen to be microglia in the brain, they can undergo phagocytosis, for instance, disposing of amyloid plaque that clogs up the brain. Another realization that happened too long ago was that there was a biphasic dose response. So if you give a bit of light, you get a positive biological effect. You give a bit more light, it gets better. And if you keep getting more light, it stops getting better. And if you give even more light, the beneficial effect goes away. And if you give a huge amount of light, you could even have a harmful effect. So this has confused a lot of people because they used to do experiments and get negative results. And they couldn't work out whether they weren't giving enough light or they were giving too much light. So it's the idea that the dosimetry is, reasonably important. In humans, it's not actually that critical, but this biphasic dose response does exist. So my laboratory over the years did a lot of experiments in traumatic brain injury. We had funding from the US Department of Defense because TBI was a big concern of the DoD. And, we did lots of experiments in mice and rats with various light sources and various cognitive testing. I won't go through these papers in detail, but we did discover quite a few interesting things about how shining light on the head has beneficial effects. And we summarize them in this diagram here. So there's a lot of different processes here, and there is positive evidence for all of them, actually. I talked about anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. It's known that light prevents cells from dying, which is important in the brain. Light can cause new blood vessels to grow, which is important if you've had a head injury or a stroke. You need to be able to grow new blood vessels. Reduces swelling, which is important after a head injury. Increases lymphatic drainage, which is important. You get more blood flow, so you get more oxygenation. I believe that these are the important effects down here in the lower right. So you get synaptogenesis, the formation of new connections between existing brain cells. You get neurogenesis, the formation of new brain cells from precursors. And you get these neurotrophins formed, the most important of which is BDNF. So we're not just preserving the brain from dying, but we're actively encouraging the brain to heal itself, which I believe is very important. So getting on to the clinical studies, this is all of photobiomodulation, which can go over the whole body. Again, I won't go into all these in detail, but it really has a very wide spectrum of beneficial effects. Some are relatively superficial, but others are deep inside the body. I just point out this effect on the lungs, which is important in the era of the COVID pandemic, and there are several clinical trials for photobiomodulation to treat COVID-19.
So I want to take just a moment to explain this photograph, which I had on the first slide. You cannot actually see this pink when you're having the treatment done or you're witnessing somebody having the treatment done. That is the near-infrared wavelengths that are in the narrow band that is focused on stimulating cytochrome C. This is what an iPhone sees, because it has the ability to see infrared, at least some amount, that we cannot see with our own eyes, and it interprets it as pink. So I'm willing to put these lights on almost anything that seems to be stuck and having a mitochondrial dysfunction. The three exceptions are I will not put it over cancer, and I'm happy to discuss that at the end of the talk. I won't put it over a fetus, a baby in utero, and I also will not put it on a fulminant infection. But other than that, just about anything. In the area of the brain, probably the most compelling place has been on concussions, traumatic brain injury, put on the head. People who are stuck there just get amazing benefit very quickly. A person with chronic traumatic encephalopathy is your football player who has developed a dementia from all the head hits that he took during his career. Early dementia is another one, and a little tricky. And the reason I put early in there is because I am of the opinion, and I really hope to be wrong, but I feel like there is an event horizon where you have fallen past this point in the course of dementia. There really is no pulling you back into the realm of normal. But even early dementia gets a little confusing. Brain fog, disorientation, anxiety from being in places that are not completely familiar. Hard to distinguish that from being just maybe something from COVID or having that be an actual sign of early dementia. But clearly worth doing on somebody who feels like they're starting to lose their ability to mentally focus, and age is a prominent feature of their current demographic. There's plenty of literature on stroke. I have not yet done it there. Also on Parkinson's disease. ALS I have not seen, but knowing that you're losing cell viability with that, putting these lights on the head and the spine is going to have the potential to reset and recover a mitochondrial function, both in the central nervous system, where the cell bodies are in the brain, the entire axon, and then also the peripheral nerves, where the motor neurons connect up. So multiple sclerosis is very much the same story. A condition I'm very familiar with, chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. You can stimulate the cells of the peripheral nervous system. All the cell bodies are located along the spinal column, and then, of course, the axons travel all over the body, longest one being from around the sacrum to the end of the big toe. Then you get into functional problems like anxiety, brain fog, depression, headaches, attention deficit, obsessive compulsive, PTSD. All of these things are probably in the realm of the most malleable in terms of being able to restore normal function by fixing up whatever is plugged. So now I'm going to let you hear from some of my patients who have experienced the treatment for cause. They had reasons to come see me, and they had conditions that needed to be addressed. I did not do any recordings of people at the beginning of their visits with me. I didn't want to embarrass anybody with the stuff that's going on. But we are going to hear now from people who have benefited from this therapy. This is Lois, who came to me after having a concussion in a parking lot with a car. She had been more than 3 weeks with complete intolerance of sensory input. She couldn't take light, sound, smell, or touch. Hear her words.
Hi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Lois O'Halloran.
Lois, what brings you to Dr. Clark's office for photon therapy?
So I had a concussion that I could not move forward from. I had constant headaches, very light sensitive, motion was very difficult for me. The smallest touch would just make my head really, really throb.
And what was your experience after the first treatment?
So it was the first time that I didn't have a headache all day long, which was huge, all day and all night. So that was really huge for me. I still had headaches, but a lot less. That was just after the first treatment.
And then about midway through your treatment of 8, what did you notice as
So the light sensitivity was significantly less. My headaches were significantly less, just maybe a little tiny headache every now and then.
And now that you've completed a series of 8, what is your current status?
So I can now not wear sunglasses indoors, which is huge. And I can be around sound now. I went to my daughter's swim meet on the weekend, and I had earplugs and sunglasses, and I was able to take my earplugs out, which is pretty huge. And I was able to take my sunglasses off. So that was pretty cool to be able to see my kid swim and to be able to hear her. That was fun.
And do you have any words to somebody else who might be in a similar situation as you?
This was pretty life-changing. I mean, I'm already telling everyone about it that I know that's had concussions. I've had many serious concussions when I was younger, so now just the smallest hit on my head will give me a concussion that will really derail me for months. And this has really cut it in half. I wish I had just come sooner. I wish I'd known about this sooner.
Thanks, Lois.
Next, we have Beth. Beth has a very extensive COVID-19, long COVID history to share with you.
Hi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Beth Martin and I'm 42 years old.
What brings you to Dr. Clark and photon therapy?
So I got sick in March of 2020 with long COVID, and it's been over a 2-year process of just trying to heal and get better. And some of my symptoms have gone away with other treatments, but over the last few years I've been having consistent symptoms that nothing would help, no amount of medication or other alternative therapies. And I've tried probably 20 to 25 different types of therapies. The things that were continuous through this process were like tingling in my brain, cognition issues, insomnia, constant headache, fatigue, shaky extremities. My feet and my hands would shake. The lymph nodes in the back of my neck would be inflamed and painful. I would have migraines on top of the headaches, and so I had pressure headaches in my face, and also sensory issues. So sounds, lights, things that are normal, like children laughing, would send me into a panic attack because I couldn't handle sensory issues.
So what did you notice after the first photon therapy treatment?
I noticed that my headache went away completely. And after having a headache for 2 years and to be taking medications for the headaches, to have a light therapy that took it away completely, was shocking. My sleep has gotten better, my shakiness has gone away, my sensory issues, I would be having panic attacks multiple times a week. Those have diminished significantly.
And that's after subsequent treatments.
That's with subsequent treatments, and I'm continuing to notice that, and I'm having to track it because all of a sudden I realize that I don't have the symptom anymore, and so things like kidney pain has diminished. The tingling sensation in my brain, along with the headaches, has diminished. I would say like 95%. And really, the fatigue has gotten better. I notice consistent improvement every week that we do this treatment.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to say to somebody else who might be in a similar situation as you?
I do. I would say that there are so many people that are not feeling heard by providers or family members, feel like they're crazy, feel like they're, it's anxiety, it's hysteria. But what I would say is that what you have is real, and you're not crazy, and there is a treatment that can help so many of the symptoms and the issues that people with chronic fatigue syndrome have, or long COVID. And what this has done for my cognition has been incredible. I was telling Dr. Clark that I've just enrolled in grad school, and I wasn't sure if I would be able to even read or complete a class, and I got A's in my first term. So my life is looking very different than it was 4 weeks ago when I started this treatment.
Next, we have Mike, who has also a complicated history. He had severe COVID and thankfully was able to survive the disease and the stay in the hospital. He had severe enough brain fog afterwards that he had to quit his job. What I found significant about his history was that his wife would not let him drive by himself, and somewhere around the 4th or 5th treatment, his wife actually let him come to town to get treatments without her accompaniment. Let's listen to Mike.
Okay.
Please tell people who you are.
Okay, my name is Mike. I'm 71 years old. I'm retired about a year ago. Just before that, I had a 14-day stay in the hospital with COVID. It was pretty bad. And so coming out of that, I continued to work for a while, and just struggled with being cognizant, I guess, of all my surroundings and sharpness of my thinking, and mostly brain fog was bothering me. And so that continued on after I retired, and my wife just said, maybe go see Dr. Clark, maybe he can do something. So that's when I found out about the light therapy, and it has really helped. I mean,
so what did you notice after your first treatment?
My first treatment, well, I actually came in, had the first treatment, and I was able to drive to Seattle. We were going to our relatives up there, and what I noticed driving in here, I live about an hour away, is just being aware of my surroundings and feeling like I'm in the moment. But I drove to Seattle, no problems. And
that's
so
awesome. What did you notice on around your 4th or 5th treatment?
The awareness kept getting better, and I was able to start recalling facts, people's names, and so forth. So, and that just progressed as time went on.
Super. What results do you have now that you've completed your treatment series?
I feel very confident. I feel very able to carry on a conversation, and I don't know, just almost feel back to normal. So that's good.
So what else would you like to say about this treatment to share with others that
might potentially benefit from it?
I didn't know anything about it until I had the first treatment. Was really surprising that I could drive and be aware and not get sort of confused or feel like I was lost. And that was kind of shocking in a way, but anyway, it's just gotten better, and so I just feel like this therapy is a godsend in a way, just because of my experience.
Thank you, Mike. Last, we have Alan, who's a chiropractic physician. He initially underestimated how much his TBI concussion had actually affected his mental functions after the accident. Please tell people who you are.
My name's Alan. I'm a chiropractic physician.
What health problems led you to try photo biomodulation therapy with Dr. Clark?
On December 7th, I was in a motor vehicle crash with airbag deployment. I was leaning forward and got myself a concussion.
What did you notice after your first treatment?
After the first treatment, it's like the brain fog started to lift.
And about midway around your fourth treatment?
I was noticing that my mental clarity was better. I was, my word recall was better.
And what results do you have now since you have completed your treatment series?
So now I'm able to sleep through the night without waking up. My brain's clearer, no more brain fog. Word recall's great. Able to track my duties better without getting confused or lost.
And what information about this treatment would you like to share with others who might potentially benefit from it?
It's very relaxing. It takes 10 minutes, and of course I fall asleep when I have it done, so it's a nice little nap for me, but non-invasive, and within a few short treatments, amazing results.
There are a lot of people out there who could benefit from this treatment, and I definitely still have time available on my schedule. So I ask that you please send me referrals. The easiest contact is to go to my website, which is literally my name smushed together, jeffclarknd.com.